if you've ever been swept away by the promise of a new relationship, that incredible rush of potential, then you know how easy it is to think that chemistry alone is going to be enough.
It really is the great paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
That initial high, it feels so real. But the research we've looked at, it shows something pretty surprising.
Oh, yeah.
Most new relationships, they don't actually end because the feelings just poof, disappear. Often they fall apart because of these subtle, preventable mistakes, psychological, behavioral stuff. We're calling them the silent saboteurs.
Silent saboteurs. I like that. Okay, let's unpack this then. So our goal today is to cut through all that noise, give you a kind of fast track to understanding these common pitfalls.
Exactly. We want to move past the surface level problem.
Right, and dig into those deeper patterns, the structural things that, erode trust and create tension, maybe before you even have a solid foundation.
Think of it as a shortcut, yeah. A way to build something healthy, something lasting, by knowing what tripwires to avoid.
Okay, got it. So where do we start?
Well, we've kind of distilled the findings into three main areas. First, structural mistakes around pacing. Then the internal stuff, mindset, history traps. And finally, the day-to-day dynamics, communication, and identity.
Right, let's kick off with that first one then, the structural failures. And you said the number one issue across all sources was what? The pacing problem.
Yeah, a pacing problem, essentially the mistake of moving too fast.
Okay. Seems straightforward, but how does it actually sabotage things?
Well, when you feel that intense rush, the instinct is often to just floor it, right? Emotionally, physically, commitment-wise. But the research shows this speed can actually trigger the amygdala, the brain's threat center in the other person.
Wait, really? So my enthusiasm could actually feel like pressure or danger.
Precisely. It signals pressure, not genuine security. So if someone's talking about moving in or, mapping out the next 5 years within a week or two.
Yeah, that feels intense.
It doesn't feel like passion to the other person. It can feel like being railroaded. It sort of bypasses that natural, organic building of trust.
Okay, that makes sense. And I guess that leads straight into the next structural mistake you mentioned, rushing commitment or labels.
It often does, yeah. You see couples trying to lock down exclusivity, or demanding official titles way too soon.
Yeah.
Before they've really built up enough shared experiences.
So pushing for the boyfriend-girlfriend label after, say, 3 dates.
Exactly. You're not building a foundation then.
Yeah.
You're just kind of forcing a frame onto something that's still really fragile.
The sources really emphasize that patience here, it's not about low interest. It's actually a sign of respect for the process.
A slow burn creates a stronger bond than a flash fire. I like that analogy.
Right. Because if you skip the shared experiences, the real world tests, that commitment label feels hollow. It can even scare someone off because it feels more transactional than organic.
Okay, so structure isn't just about time, it's also about space. Which brings us to the next big one, lack of boundaries. Why is setting limits so tough when everything feels new and exciting? Good question. I think people worry that setting a boundary might feel like rejection, or it'll create distance.
Yeah, you don't want to kill the vibe.
Exactly. But failing to set those personal limits early on, that's almost a guaranteed path to resentment down the line. The sources link this directly to emotional burnout, when there's an imbalance in emotional labor.
Can you give an example of that imbalance? What does that look like?
Sure. Maybe one partner starts expecting total instant access to the other's time, or their social media passwords, or constant check-ins, while the other person really values their independence, maybe needs a couple of nights a week for themselves, or with their own friends.
Right.
If the other person keeps demanding joint time, the one sacrificing their space starts building up this resentment, debt. It just grows.
So boundaries aren't walls, they're more like scaffolding.
That's a great way to put it. When they're discussed openly and actually respected, boundaries are the scaffolding of trust. They make sure neither person just disappears into the relationship.
Okay, so we've got the external, the structural stuff. Moving too fast, rushing labels, not enough boundaries. Now, what about the saboteurs inside our own heads? The emotional, psychological traps. You called this the inner game.
Yeah, the inner game. This is where all our relationship history, our baggage, and maybe our fantasies kind of collide with the present reality. And a huge killer here is projecting past experiences onto the new person.
Ah, the baggage carousel. Okay. It makes sense to be guarded if you've been hurt before, but how does that guard turn into, a weapon against someone new?
Well, the sources explain it as a classic case of confirmation bias. So if you've experienced, say, a really painful betrayal in the
You're
past,
kind of waiting for it to happen again.
so consciously, yeah, your brain starts looking for evidence, even tiny things, that confirms the trauma is going to repeat.
Yeah.
A common example cited is someone constantly accusing their new partner of lying or being shady, even when there's no actual reason for it.
Wow. So they're essentially making their new partner pay for the sins of the ex through assumptions.
Exactly right. You erode trust before it even has a chance to form. The relationship stops being about the person in front of you and becomes about the ghost of your past.
So how do you counter that?
You have to consciously shift the focus. Build trust based on current evidence, what's happening now. Use open dialogue and constantly remind yourself that this new connection is unique. It deserves a clean slate.
Okay, clean slate. Moving from the past baggage to maybe future fantasies, let's talk about unrealistic expectations. We all carry these sort of movie montage ideas of love, right? Effortless connection, constant perfection.
Oh, definitely. And perfection is absolutely the enemy of the good, especially in new relationships. This mistake often shows up as expecting your partner to be a mind reader.
Like, they should just know what I want.
Right. Or believing that real love means nonstop, high-drama romance with zero effort and definitely no conflict. Then, when reality inevitably hits, mundane moments, small disagreements, simple misunderstandings,
The fantasy bubble bursts.
and it leads to intense disappointment. Instead of appreciating what's actually there, the focus shifts to what's missing compared to the ideal.
So the advice isn't lower your standards, but maybe shift your focus.
Precisely. Move away from those transactional expectations. If you loved me, you do X, and focus on appreciation. Celebrate the small things, the gradual growth, the consistent effort, realistic goals. Real connection is built in consistency, not constant fireworks.
Makes sense. And the last trap in this inner game section, a very modern one, comparing your relationship to others.
Ah, yes. The social media effect. This is where the curated digital lives we see can really do damage.
How so?
While you're scrolling through Instagram or whatever, you see friends posting these grand gestures, these perfect-looking vacations, and suddenly your own quiet, private connection starts feeling, lacking, inadequate.
Even if it's actually deep and meaningful.
Yeah, the comparison still messes with your head on a cognitive level. It breeds insecurity and puts this huge, often unspoken pressure on the new relationship.
So the antidote is stay off social media.
Maybe partly. But more realistically, it's about internalization. The sources really push focusing relentlessly on your unique journey. Celebrate the intimacy you're building, the shared history you're creating, completely separate from external validation or what things look like online. Your relationship has to work on its own terms, not Instagram's terms.
Right. Structure, mindset. Okay, let's move to the day-to-day stuff. Communication, identity. This section feels like it needs constant vigilance, starting with ignoring red flags.
Yeah, and this often stems from cognitive dissonance, especially in those early, heady stages. We want the relationship to work so badly.
Rose-tinted glasses.
Exactly. So we rationalize away warning signs, maybe controlling behavior or someone who's always late or someone who consistently avoids serious talks. Love makes us blind, as the cliche goes.
But you're saying that blindness is a choice.
Often, yes. It's a choice we make, maybe unconsciously, to protect the fantasy we've built up. If someone consistently cancels plans last minute, or dodges questions about money, or shows flashes of intense jealousy early on, those aren't usually isolated incidents. They're often patterns.
So the desire for the relationship overrides the instinct to protect yourself from bad behavior patterns.
That's a good way to put it. Paying attention, trusting your gut, it's crucial. Recognizing red flags early isn't being cynical. It's just pragmatic. It can save you a lot of pain later.
Okay. Next up, the communication tightrope walk. Over-communicating or under-communicating, finding that just right Goldilocks zone.
Ah, yeah. It's often an issue of quantity versus quality. Over-communicating, texting constantly, expecting instant replies that gets labeled as clingy really fast, and it creates anxiety when replies are slow.
We've all felt that.
Right. But then, the flip side, under-communicating creates distance and insecurity. The partner doesn't feel prioritized or kept in the loop.
So how do couples find that sweet spot without having, constant negotiations about texting frequency?
The research points toward setting some communication boundaries early on. What's the expectation? Does "I'm busy at work" mean zero texts for 6 hours? Or does it mean text away, but replies might be slow? The key is prioritizing quality, meaningful conversations where you're both actually present over just constant low-level contact.
Respecting space actually helps the connection.
It ensures that when you do connect, the conversation is valued, it's meaningful.
Okay, and if we're prioritizing quality conversations, that means we definitely can't be avoiding difficult conversations. You called this one a ticking time bomb.
Absolutely guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's so common for new couples to avoid any hint of conflict just to keep things feeling smooth and easy in that early phase.
Keep the honeymoon going.
Right. So they skirt around big topics, future expectations, core values, tricky boundaries about family or finances. But all they're really doing is bottling up tension.
Which will eventually explode.
Inevitably. And usually over something small later on, turning a minor disagreement into a massive fight because all that stored up stuff comes out. Avoidance doesn't get rid of conflict, it just postpones it and makes it way more destructive.
So if you can't talk about something important like kids or career plans or where you want to live in the first, say, 6 months, that issue isn't just going to vanish.
Not a chance. Being able to communicate openly, honestly, and empathetically from early on, even about tough stuff, that proves the relationship can handle complexity. And that's absolutely essential if you want it to last.
Okay, final mistake. And maybe the most crucial for long-term balance, neglecting self-identity.
Yes. This happens when two people merge too fast, too completely. You start letting go of your hobbies, drifting away from your friends, putting your personal growth on the back burner, all to spend every single waking moment with the new partner.
It feels super romantic at first, though, doesn't it? Like becoming one.
It really does. But the sources are clear. This rapid merging leads straight to codependence and imbalance. Well, think about it. The irony is that the very things that probably attracted you to that person in the first place, maybe their confidence, their interesting hobbies, their independent social life, those are often the first things that get sacrificed on the altar of the relationship.
And eventually that leads to boredom.
Yeah.
Resentment.
Both. Personal frustration, boredom, even a loss of attraction. Because that person isn't a whole interesting individual anymore. They've become just an extension of the relationship. The experts are unanimous. A truly healthy, sustainable bond needs two whole individuals.
Not two halves trying to make a whole.
Exactly. You have to maintain your own identity, your passions, your friendships, your sense of self.
Wow. Okay, that was a really powerful deep dive into those hidden relationship traps. We went from structural stuff like pacing and boundaries to the inner game of baggage and expectations, and then the daily dynamics of communication and keeping your sense of self.
Yeah, and I think the biggest takeaway really is just awareness. These mistakes, they're incredibly common, almost universal. But they are preventable. It comes down to patience, disciplined communication, and committing to realistic expectations.
Nurturing the relationship means understanding that deep connection and individual identity aren't mutually exclusive.
Absolutely. You can have both. In fact, you need both for it to thrive long term.
Yeah.
Honoring individuality is key.
Okay, so if we boil it down, the two huge dangers seem to be rushing things, commitment labels, and losing yourself in the process. So here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on.
Yeah.
Which of these 10 mistakes do you personally feel you might be most prone to making when you get caught up in that initial magic of a new connection? And thinking about the importance of individuality. What's one single, small, really defined boundary, maybe related to your time, your personal space, or your social life that you could proactively set, maybe even this week?
That's a good challenge.
There's something to protect your own identity and make sure that the connection you're building is based on two whole, complete people. Something to think about as you move forward.